Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on not just a recent film that came out, but also some of the politics and weird things that happen when you try to put out a film revealing things that maybe some people don't want to be revealed. And, we all talk about conspiracy and this and that, but Ron he's told us some pretty crazy stuff about his latest film, Accidental Truth, and some of the challenges that he's had, both competition wise and maybe higher up the ladder than we even know. So, he's, I think, the first time on our show, but he also hosts MUFON TV, filmmaker, super well spoken and knowledgeable guy. I think he can, bring the world of nuts and bolts and the last 75 years worth of info and sort of bring it to the table. Now, I know, Jay, you got some stuff you want to ask. I want to definitely go to the world of like Enigma Labs. A lot of talk about this place. Ron knows more about MUFON than just about anybody we've spoken to. Let's see what the deal is. Where's everybody at in the pecking order? Can he give us any info that maybe hasn't been told on other shows? So it's going to be a cool show. We're going to pick his brain. We're going to try to see what we can learn, for our audience and our viewers.
Well, we always learn something from every guest. And I think, his level of, commitment to this project, and not only his film, but to MUFON and his activity within the community, it's important. And we need to cover that, right? We need to see these guys and that basically ask them about MUFON as well, right? What's MUFON up to? We're big supporters of the organization, and tell our listeners that if you want to get involved, that's a great step to start, right? For sure. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this interview. Should be interesting.
Yeah, and when I watched the movie, I see it was almost like a Rolodex of our favorite guests. Some of the bigger names we've had on this show are all in this movie. So right away, it was like watching a project that our buddies had made. So very cool. So anyway, we're going to get Ron out of the backstage here. We're going to run our music, and let's do a bit of a deep dive on creating UFO movies and the politics that go into it and everything else that's happening in the world of ufology with Mr. Ron James.
Cue the music.
Welcome back to another episode of UAP Studies Podcast. My name is Louis Borges. Joining me as always, my good buddy, Jason Gilmet.
Well, you know what? We have yet to do an interview where I don't show up, I'm looking forward to the day that I'm really, really sick and you have to carry this on your own. Because I know you got this.
I did it with COVID, all right? We interviewed Ross Coulthard. I had full-blown COVID and I was there. So I know you slept in a little, but that doesn't matter because we're here, right?
We're here.
Harvey Loeb was 5 minutes late and he almost solved the equation of dark energy. So we can forgive him for that, I guess. But it's a great day. Today we're chatting with another great filmmaker and a big mind in the field of ufology. Ron James is our guest. He is the founder of MUFON Television. He's also the head of media relations for MUFON itself. And he is the producer of a recent movie called Accidental Truth, which we've both watched. And it features an amazing cast. Most of those people have been on our show, so it felt like watching our friends kind of do their own project. And so we'll dive into the movie and as well learn a little bit about Ron himself. But first, big welcome, Mr. Ron James.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome to have you here. Yeah, for sure. I hadn't heard of you, and shame on me for not having heard of you. You've been around a while and been doing this, and I saw what you've been involved with previously and the type of dialogue that you have and how you kind of process it all. And it's very much how we think too, right? Like, let's delineate between definitely what we know and definitely what we don't know. And let's not, there's a lot of programs putting out content and people just spit out facts so matter of fact, and it kind of gets watered down with what is truth and what is not. And I think your film did a very good job, separating what is it that we know, what are the experts saying, and let's not focus on the stuff we don't. So kudos to you for a job well done. And again, first time on our show. So if anyone in our audience isn't familiar with you, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you into ufology, and then now making movies.
Sure. So I've had a production company since the late 1990s, and I ended up in Sedona, Arizona, building studios and stuff there. And so I started Sedona Media Company, and I ran into Steve Bassett way back then, and he hired me to produce his X conference. So I went to the first X conference. I think it was 2007, and I'd always been kind of into the topic to a point, kind of like an armchair aficionado. But when I went to the conference and I started seeing these people, and it dawned on me that this was like the biggest deception ever perpetrated on humanity. And it was way back then that I really decided that I was going to do something about it. So I got involved in the field. I made friends with a lot of the people that I used to see on TV all the time, which is pretty cool. And I just started shooting interviews and trying to connect the dots. And so I've got hard drives and hard drives full of unpublished interviews of lots of people. And the picture that I paint with Accidental Truth became clear quite some time ago, but it wasn't until I interviewed Lou Elizondo in 2017 or 2018 that I really understood what this film needed to be. And so that's when I put it together. And so I've done a lot of UFO productions. I've done, we won the EBE Awards in 2012 for the Disclosure Dialogues, which was me that did that with Jen Stein and Chris O'Brien. And I've done I helped with the Travis, the True Story of Travis Walton, Marilyn Monroe Declassified, and a bunch of shows that I've done for MUFON Television. So I've got I joined forces with MUFON in I like to say about 2018, right about the time I did the thing with Lou. And we started MUFON TV, which I built and created, and it's become the largest online repository of UFO stuff, mostly MUFON related. No commercials, no tracking, no weird stuff. It's just a nice place to get information. And then after a few years of that, they made me their media relations director. So now I get to do all kinds of cool stuff like work on Ancient Aliens and things like that. So my desire to make a film that really was a game changer that moved the ball forward. I didn't want to just make another one of these things where we're saying all these things that have no basis in fact. And as Ralph Blumenthal says in the interview that I did with him, and he's the guy that broke the story. So, I went straight to the source all the way across the board on this, and I managed to get almost everybody I wanted. But Ralph says, what we can prove about this subject is compelling enough. And so Accidental Truth is about what we can prove by either showing these government documents, cross-referencing them with things that we already know, and getting people that know a lot more than they're willing to tell us to tell us more than they're willing to share. So I think we succeeded.
And I think the definition in the movie of accidental truth, so it says here, an accidental truth is what happens when a combination of statements and evidence lead to an inescapable conclusion that was not originally intended to be revealed. So it's a collection of evidence throughout 75 years, if not more, that just when you put it together, there's no other way around it. There's no way to deny it. This actually happened. This was confirmed at the time. Now, like you mentioned, there's a lot of hearsay in ufology. It's always like, I heard it from a guy who knew a guy, and this is real, right? So there's no way to actually find the evidence for this. But in your movie, you make it very clear. Look, these events happened and it's documented. And when you collect them together, there's something going on that we're not being told. And it's beautifully done. The title of the movie describes the movie very well, right? When you put the movie together, so did you have it in mind that, to reach out the armchair ufologist, or like the crowd, let's say like my wife, which is kind of interested in UFOs, but doesn't know the backstory of it? Like, what was your intention building it? Like, what was your audience that you were targeting?
Well, it's interesting. I get asked all the time, if there was a single book I could read or a single film I could watch that would bring me up to speed on kind of what's happening with the UFO field, what would it be?
Right.
And there's certainly a few books out there that are heavy lifts, and I wanted to make the film that would do that job. So for the mainstream public that knows very little about this topic, it's the film to watch. It lays it out for you all the way back to Roswell, and it's very concise, and there's no BS in it, and it will bring you up to speed. And for the UFO person who thinks they know it all, and there's a lot of them out there that are like, oh, well, I already knew about all this stuff. I don't think so. I think if you're still saying that after you watch the film, then you weren't paying attention, because there's a lot of stuff in here that you do not already know, I promise. So I tried to make the film that was really going to break through the barriers of the mainstream at the same time that it was a rewarding watch for the UFO community. And so far, it looks like it's succeeded. it remains to be seen. There's a lot of, it's a very crowded pond right now. There's other films out there. There's like 4 in the top 10 in Apple, and they're all UFO films, and I'm one of them. We've been in the top
That's
10
awesome.
charts.
Congratulations.
It's all
That's
these
cool.
UFO films. And James Fox is a friend of mine. He gave me a shout out on Rogan, which was really cool.
Nice.
And so we're joking around all the time. It's lonely at the top, but at least we have each other.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, I've heard you say that you wanted this movie to pass the Midwest bar test.
Oh, have you heard that one?
And I thought that was super cool. I've heard it before for other things, but I don't think many people have heard it. So tell us, what is the Midwest bar test?
Well, okay, so this is kind of a joke I made up, but it really illustrates a point. And for me, as a journalist, I have this little thing that I made up in my head, and I call it the Midwest bar test. And what that means is that if you were to walk into a bar in the Midwest of America, salt of the earth people, farmers, whoever, just average Midwestern people at the bar at the end of the day, and you sit down and somehow or another UFOs comes up. Well, they're going to gather around you. They're going to be like, well, what do you know about UFOs? And you say something to the effect of, well, I think there's good evidence that there might have been a non-human intelligence interacting with the human race for all of recorded history. And they're going to go, yeah, I've heard about that kind of stuff. I watched Ancient Aliens. I think that might be true. And then you say, well, and the government, I think, obviously knows more about it than they're telling us. And you're still going to get that. By this point, somebody's probably buying you a beer. And then, then you chime in with, there's very few scientists out there still that will say there's no life in outer space. So I think it's pretty much accepted that there has to be something out there, and you still got their attention, and you're in a friendly situation. But as soon as you say, oh, and by the way, I was subjected to all this weird teleportation technology, I went to Mars on a giant flying space submarine, fought spiders, and came back, and then all of a sudden I was age regressed right back into where I started when I was 12. About that time, one of them's dragging you outside, the other one is kicking you. They're laughing at you like you're a psycho, and the guy that bought you a beer probably took it back and he's drinking it. So if it passes the Midwest bar test, which means that the average person could agree with what you're saying and not think you're a fool, then I like to stay in that, because there's too many tinfoil hats, and the UFO field has gotten too much ridicule because of it. And so even within MUFON, I'm always like, guys, let's stick to what we can scientifically prove or make a case for, because that's what we're all about. And that's why I got involved with MUFON, is because at the core of it, it's the scientific understanding of this phenomenon. And we've got a huge amount of people working on this from that standpoint. But I don't want to make another film about UFOs. I might have gotten more people like appreciating it if I would have made it a little bit more bombastic, but I didn't. It's literally it's a case being laid out in as entertaining a manner as I could make it. And it passes the Midwest bar test.
Right. And you mentioned something good about the Armchair Investigators, because we see that all the time on Twitter, whether they comment on our posts or they comment on somebody else's posts, is like, you guys are stupid and I knew all this information. Like, everybody thinks that they know everything on the subject because they watch documentaries on TV. And the thing is, Louie and I have been at this for a while. We've interviewed so many freaking people, and we still don't know everything there is to know about the subject. It has levels of expertise that you need to focus on and be good in that, right? Like, if you're into physics, stick with the physics. We're often on podcasts where like there's experts in like document, that were just revealed and stuff. That's out of my depth. I don't know what I'm talking about. Then they throw me a question. I'm like, I don't know. But ask me about the abduction phenomenon or the cattle mutilation, and I'll have a good discussion with you. So there's all these experts needed in this field, because it touches on every aspect of our lives. And like you mentioned, if they're here,
it really does.
Yeah. If they're here, they've been interacting with us from the start. Our science, our consciousness, our evolution, everything's tied into them. It takes every field of study in humanity to be able to put this together. Right. And I think MUFON does a great job, at least being there for people to listen to them without ridicule. When
the organization's really come a long way, and we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, huge. But my question to you is, with the recent, Congress hearings, and just hearing about how the new departments are it seems like there's no momentum. And when that gentleman said, I'd like to make it somebody else's problem, I keep thinking, well, MUFON, why doesn't the government fund MUFON? Because I know in Congress, they use a lot of data from MUFON to begin with to establish a foundation. So why don't they just keep funding that organization that's already doing work, that already has the foundation to investigate? You know what I mean? Instead of just starting anew every single time from scratch.
Well, every time MUFON gets involved in something where the government funds it, like the whole thing with Ossoff and Robert Bigelow, then we get accused of selling out to the government, becoming part of the problem. But what I can tell you that I don't know if you know this or not, MUFON has been in Washington, D.C. moving mountains. We are the ones that got Andre Carson and Gillibrand and Gallagher to have that hearing in the first place. It was our lobbying group, Jessica Taco at A10 and Associates, that worked with these guys to make it happen. And we also were instrumental in some of the legislation that got passed for the there's a section in the Defense Appropriations Act that calls for military accountability of UAP files. Now, originally that date went back to 1947, and we went in to discuss this, and we wanted it moved back to 1945 so that we didn't have Roswell being the year that was all cloudy, and then we also knew that there was some things that happened before 47. So we actually are the ones that got that changed from 1947 to 1945, and that is something that's documented. And I have MUFON has had over 350 meetings with staffers and sitting Congress people in the last year and a half.
350.
350. We're delivering reports as we speak quarterly to both House and Senate Intelligence Committees. And I personally, I'm looking to see if I can find the pictures, because lots of people can
that's
talk.
Crazy. That's
A
commitment.
lot more involved than most people would think.
Yeah,
well, we are. And what's really funny is that there's a lot of people out there talking about how, well, I was there getting that done. And I have to say, we are there, and we don't see a lot of these people. So I wish they would stop it, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's whatever. So here is this is me having lunch with Andre Carson 2 months ago. He's the one that led those hearings, and I sat with him for looking for some of the other pictures, because this is really cool. Here's me with Congressman Tim Burchett a couple months ago. I sat and personally lined out 3 sitting members of Congress inside a 24-hour period, and I had time to talk to them. There's video of me telling Tim Burchett the whole story from Roswell going forward. We're going to release it on the Accidental Truth Insider page. So yeah, we're getting a lot done, and we're getting their attention. And what's really interesting is these guys know that they're being lied to. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing unfold in these hearings, the first one was kind of bad. Moultrie and Bray kind of made fools of themselves, of those of us who know, but they illustrated compartmentalization and how this whole thing is working. And all they're doing now is building more boxes and giving them more acronyms. Oh, this is the AAP, pop, 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 whatever, and they're everywhere. And then we get this: NASA announces that they're going to start looking into UAP. Give me a break.
Like they haven't been for 75 years. However long they've been around.
Well, yeah, let's go back to life on Mars in 76 and just start there. Yeah. But so these guys know, and unfortunately they have to walk a certain tightrope and they have to play a certain game, but behind closed doors, they're as mad about it as the rest of us, especially the ones that are invested in the topic. And so sitting members of front-facing politicians, they're not really the enemy, so to speak, in the secrecy. And neither are the guys like Lou and Chris and these mid-level people, because they're not really read in either. There's very, very few people that really know the whole story, and they're disappearing rapidly because, they're dying off. And then institutional memory is not really there. So it's like there isn't this huge paper trail. There isn't this huge documentation of this stuff. A lot of evidence has been destroyed. It's really shocking, actually, how easily and readily the military will destroy historical evidence. And so, that's kind of a long answer and all over the place, but the movement in Washington is happening. We're doing it. There's some other things that kind of tie in with what you're talking about that I can't talk about now, but we have a seat at the table, and we're doing everything we can to fulfill our mission in DC.
Man, I'm so proud of you guys. That is awesome.
I wanted to
know?
ask you about, we hear a lot from Enigma, not from, but about Enigma Labs. And at face value, they were kind of cloaked behind, we don't want to tell you who we are, what we're doing. We won't say whether we're sharing with the government or not. We just want you to send us your info. And a lot of people were like, well, at least when you send it to MUFON, there's some kind of assurance, although I'm sure the government knows everything and it's in all the MUFON files already,
of course
right?
Well, we try to keep them from knowing it, but yeah.
Sure. But I mean, you just told us something very important about how many meetings MUFON has had in Congress, but we have interviewed state directors and a lot of them on our show. We've never heard that. But yet we hear a lot about Enigma and they're coming in and they have the special access programs with the government. Like, what are your thoughts on all this? What can you tell us?
Well, look, when you're the big kid on the block, you got a target on your back. MUFON's been around for 55 years now, almost. It'd be 55 next year. We're the largest and oldest organization. We have the biggest database. Our membership is thriving. And then there's a lot of it. Enigma is a private company funded by private money. Yeah. And they're out there advertising, oh, send your UFO reports to us. And that's true that they're doing that. And the thing is with MUFON, we're a not-for-profit organization to serve the public. If you want to make sure that this data doesn't get usurped, then you put it someplace like MUFON, because we all know what happened to valuable data when Robert Bigelow was in charge of collecting it. It's still sitting at Bigelow Aerospace in files that he's never going to share. And so that's the danger of dealing with some of these organizations. And Ben, I'm going to show you something you're just going to crack up when you see this. Ben Hansen is involved in Enigma. I'm friends with Ben. Yeah,
we've interviewed Ben, Alejandro Rojas. There's a few of the members that are starting to emerge. But it was weird initially. If you searched Enigma on LinkedIn, it was like Alejandro Rojas and 4 other random people. One guy had a totally Mexican page with no English writing on it. And it just seemed like it was a team of 5 people. How could they be doing something? None of them seem to have, other than Alejandro, none of them seem to have any UFO-related credentials. One was like a computer science guy. One was like I don't even remember, but they didn't strike me as the dream team of ufologists tackling this.
So was it just Louis and James, Ron, was it the funding that they got for this?
Yeah, it's the money. They got money, and
so advertising,
$1 million,
right?
I think they got.
Yeah, so they're doing advertising. They're setting stuff up. They're basically becoming a commercial version of what we do. But even inside of Enigma, these people understand who the OG is, and let me just prove that here.
Yeah, there's Ben. Yeah. Nice. The thing that I heard, just
he's holding the original MUFON T-shirt.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
And I like the MUFON T-shirt that says "Doing the Air Force's job since 1969." I think that's pretty cool. Just to touch back.
So anyway, these groups out there, Rojas used to be a part of MUFON. He was high up. Ben Hansen, I have nothing but respect for. I like Alejandro. I wish that some of the things that they're saying are blatant kind of jabs at MUFON, right. But we're at the point now where we're unassailable, and nobody is ever going to have a database like ours. Nobody is ever going to have an organizational membership like ours. Nobody's ever going to be as entrenched in some of these programs and some of this disclosure movement in DC as we are. And it comes with the territory. MUFON for a long time has been like the part of the field that people could take our data and make entire TV shows and projects out of it with no repercussions. They could trash us anytime somebody didn't like the way a state director treated somebody else. Right. And those days are over, because we've risen above all of that to the point where there's just too much good in this organization, and nobody's ever going to be able to catch us.
Yeah. And MUFON will take the account and report it, using obviously its standards of investigative techniques. But Enigma, as far as I know, it's all algorithm based, computer based. And depending on the classification of close encounter, it gets more or less probability. So if somebody reports a light in the sky, that's maybe a 2 out of 10 on their scale. Whereas if somebody sees a craft, sees inhabitants, it gets a much higher. But there may be people that don't remember. They haven't been hypnotically regressed. So they might only remember a light in the sky, but there might be a crazy story once you start digging a little bit or pulling away the curtains. So if you're going to
Well,
have a
look,
computer-
if somebody has the resources to go and hypnotically regress somebody who makes a report about a light in the sky,
right.
they're going to run out of money pretty damn
Yeah,
quick.
I get that too. Yeah, you can't. But the thing I like though is there's no filter really with MUFON. They'll take it all. Whereas
Well,
I
we
think
take
with
it
Enigma,
in, but we don't investigate everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we don't have enough people. But yeah, we take the reports in. Two new things that MUFON has that is really fun is our UFO map app. So you can track UFO sightings around the world in real time, and our social media network that you can download, put on your phone, and it's a whole worldwide community. And these are things that we just added that are just really exciting. And then we have our own laboratories now, not something where we can send stuff out. We actually built a laboratory that can do rudimentary testing on physical evidence, and we also have a new photo analysis setup, that state-of-the-art everything. And yeah, so that's just some of the stuff.
Yeah. No, Lou Elizondo in your movie had a statement that he said that we, the witnesses, experiencers of these things, were right all along. And we've been waiting for somebody from the government to come out and say, hey, there's something going on. Lou was our champion, and people like piranhas just turned around and tried to eat him to shreds.
Yeah,
he's the one coming out saying, hey, guys, you're right. There is something going on. I investigated it, and these guys don't want it out, but I'll tell you that it's out there. Him and Christopher Mellon, which has a pair of balls on him because he walked out of the Defense Department with the 3 videos. And for Tom DeLonge and released them. Like, how much guts that takes. And as far as I know, it's the first time in history that somebody just walked out of the Defense Department with those tapes. And
there's a lot of people that think that whole rollout is by design. In the movie,
right.
We explore that. Ralph Blumenthal, who broke the story, he's like, oh no, this was complete serendipity. I don't think that's really the case. I think that this was organized and planned and authorized on some level. And I think that once you're in the intelligence community to the level that Lou is, you're never not working. It's not like you retire and you walk away and you're not taking orders and listening to people anymore. So the whole rollout of this was in my opinion, was planned, orchestrated, and then a couple things went wrong because there were people inside the agencies that didn't want the information out, and they had a chance to get off their back feet and come back and fight. And so what we've been seeing play out in the public arena since 2018 is the results of this. One minute they'll be, oh yeah, there's materials. The next minute the Pentagon's saying, oh no, that's not true. And we're going to name an agency. We're going to rename an agency. We're going to start an agency. We're going to cancel an agency. It's a big dog and pony show over this evidence. And do I think that Lou and Chris genuinely want to see this stuff come out more and more? I think that if they had a personal choice in it, of course they do. But that doesn't mean that they're going to do things that they're told not to do. I think they know what they can say. They know how far they can go. And it's all part of this new narrative that's being rolled out, which says this is all new information since 2004. And Accidental Truth is all about saying, no, it's not. We know that these programs have been going on. We can prove they exist. We know what you guys studied. We got John Alexander coming out for the first time ever. I mean, his entire section in the film is like just bam, 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 bam. And this is a guy that was front facing for the longest time saying, oh, there's nothing to do with those UFO things. It's just, there's, and the whole time he's actually running one of these programs, and they know fully well what's going on. And even the Alexanders and the Mellons and the Elizondos, these guys are not read completely in. They're like mid-tier. You have the front-facing people that whose job it is to just have official denial. Then you have the Alexanders and the Mellons who have been told a certain amount of stuff, but they still haven't been told everything. Alexander's first role was to, in looking into UFOs, was to try and find out who had the information about Roswell and blah, 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 and what was going on with it. And I think he reached a point where he was read in enough that his official role became, well, there was nothing happened at Roswell. It was just, and he says that. Sorry, John, I'm impersonating you. But
that was also a good Seth Rogen impersonation. I'm just going to say, it sounded like Seth Rogen.
If John is listening, get in touch with us. We'd love to have you on the show. I like.
I'm going to see him. I'm going to see him very shortly. I'll mention it to him.
Awesome. I heard you.
He got
Sorry,
kind
Jay,
of
I was
mad
just
at
going
me
to say,
because of the.
you're talking about sort of the dangers, and you mentioned Lou Elizondo, Jay, and how like what happens to people when they come out. And I heard you mention on another program that making this film, you had some fears associated with like releasing this info. I think you even said you thought maybe somebody might try to off you or something because of it. So
Well,
maybe
I don't want to be all tinfoil hat paranoid, but I had some weird things happen. And still to this day, dude, if I told you the level of treachery, lies, deceit, threats coming from some very front-facing people, if I ever decide to go public with it, it's going to be absolutely insane. Making this movie, there was not a minute until April 18th when I saw it on Prime Video that I was 100% convinced it was ever going to come out. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop constantly. We've got people that are in the film that pretended to support the film and then tried to stop it from behind the scenes. We've got people inside the companies that were all involved in the distribution process doing all kinds of questionable things. It's quite a story. It's probably as big a story as the film itself.
do you
And
think
at some
that's
point,
business competition? Like, is it competition?
there's a
between
certain amount of
films?
business competition. There's a certain amount, yeah, because let's face it, there's a couple of guys that are in the UFO movie, and they want to stay at the top. And Accidental Truth is a film that nobody expected it to be what it is. When they first gave me the deal to make it, I was told by somebody who's in the film and a very prominent attorney that it was a catch and kill situation. They knew that I had some material and they didn't want me to be the one that came out with it, so they gave me the contract with the potential intention of burying the film. And I knew that because I was warned early on. And so my solution to it was just to make it bigger and bigger and unburyable. So that's when I got Matthew Modine to narrate it. That's when I brought in Michio Kaku. That's when I brought in Ralph Blumenthal and Gary Nolan and all these people that just rounded out this cast. And even then, the release got botched by just a bunch of really stupid stuff, like the wrong cast list and the wrong metadata being delivered to the stores. Before the film was even released, a team of people went to IMDb and rated it 1 star, so that when it popped on Amazon, it would show a really low rating.
Oh
And
no!
yeah, it's and this was before you could even see the film.
Like they're
Before
trying
it
to
had
sabotage you?
before it
Yeah.
even had a single star rating on IMDb, somebody went to IMDb and gave it 6 1-star ratings. So what that meant was that when it appeared on Amazon for the first time, you'd see a film with 1-star rating, because until the star ratings catch up, they use the IMDb ratings. And the review bombs of people just giving it 1 star and saying just ludicrous things, it's all this inner group of people that have tried to sabotage the movie before it even hit the ground running. And I'm still dealing with that. And they still don't have the stuff right on Amazon. I mean, the film's narrated by Matthew Modine. You go to Amazon, you don't see that. You got to dig for it. I mean, this dude's an A-list actor, and you don't even know he's involved in half of the stuff where they rolled it out because they put it out with the wrong cast.
Wow.
So
That's
Crazy, man.
that's being stupid. Yeah, that's
see, we've got Dr. Greer put out Endgame, and then we have his new movie Lost Century, and I'm sandwiched in between those two films. I have this little window for this to gain traction, and there's been so many kneecappings, like Coast to Coast AM have intentionally dissed the film. Tom Danheiser basically, there was an interview that I did with Cheryl Jones about the MUFON Symposium that was coming up, and that was green lighted, and then Danheiser put the kibosh on it. It never saw the light of day, even though it was edited and ready to go. And now that I've got this, there's some people involved in that circle that aren't happy with the film, and so they've intentionally just completely ignored it. In fact, when the Debrief magazine picked up did an article about it where they said it laid out the most compelling case ever for UFOs. It was a very nice review. Coast to Coast's algorithm picked it up and put it on their page. But if you go right now, and I think you could do it, if you search Accidental Truth, you'll find where Coast to Coast picked up the story, but then the words that are on the page have nothing to do with the movie. So it's like somebody said, "Oh, wait a minute, we can't put that on there," and they wiped it out. So there's a lot of that going on. It's really off the charts, and the reason is because this is the movie. And people need to see it. And I'm not saying that because I want people to rent it. This is the one that lays it out. And all these other guys are taking little bits and pieces of it and putting it into their own stuff. And at the end of the day, if people don't see this film, they're going to get another diluted version of the facts. And so, it's doing pretty good, I think, but everybody needs to see this.
And you brought up a good point too, the Messiah complex that seems to be dominant in ufology, especially right now because the subject is so freaking hot. Louis and I try to approach this as humble as we can, with humility and just saying, we don't know, let's find out together. Some people just have it in their heads that I know things, people tell me things, I'm the Messiah, I'm the only one who knows the truth.
Look, the ET phenomenon, aliens, the whole answer to this is not a cult and it's not a religion, and it never should be. Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's really shocking what I've seen. And I'm, because of some stuff that's just happened in the last few days where some facts have been revealed to me that are just off the charts. When I finished making the movie, there were times when I was making Accidental Truth where I would literally sit looking at my computer and looking at the things that these people were saying. And I'd just be like this, just shaking my head, because it's just so shocking the amount of deception and the extremes that people have been willing to go to cover up this information. As far as killing people, I don't think they do that anymore, but there was a time.
Mm-hmm.
But this secret has been, these guys will do anything to keep this secret. And not the guys like Lou and Chris and all these guys. I'm talking about the people that really have the information.
Yeah.
And for people that say, well, I've already seen the information that's in the movie. Well, you've never seen Chris Mellon kind of inadvertently admit there's crash debris being studied by a group he couldn't access. He does that in the film. You've never seen Lou Elizondo basically accidentally admit there is a something, there is a they, and you've never seen a lot of the things that are in this. And there are some people that are not very happy about what I put out there.
Right.
Now, in terms of this being, or people saying it's a giant government conspiracy, you mentioned Steve Bassett. He's a friend of ours. We've had him on a few times. He calls it more of a truth embargo, not that it's some nefarious thing, but that there's good reasoning behind it. And then earlier in this interview, you said that it is so compartmentalized. Even the guys we think of as being big players, they haven't been read in on this. So if it is really just a very small number of people that actually know, it is not a great grand conspiracy. But again, you look at the behavior of the government for 75 years, it's got a lot of redactions and telltale signs that it is a secret. So what are your thoughts on the whole, is it a big conspiracy?
Well, the thing is that once it got under control of whatever group was assigned to manage the information, we have, the MJ-12. Now, maybe that's not the guys, and maybe that's not the group. I personally think that it probably was. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's neither here nor there. There would have been some sort of group put together to manage this when it came to light. And like we point out in the film, during the transition from the Air Force to the Army, or from the Army to the Air Force, the end of World War II, there was a lot going on. And so why did they form the Interplanetary Research Phenomenon Unit of the Special Investigative Branch of the Army? Why, as Matthew Modine cleverly puts it in the film, well, I wrote it, but he said it. Why did they need that? And it's like, hello, that's a very poignant question. So anyway, once it was decided that this information was going to be managed, then people decided how to manage it, which was basically, we can't tell people what we know. And there could be a lot of reasons. One, you can't go to the public and say we have no control over our own destiny. The other is that there's technology that these corporations have sequestered away, and they're not going to come off that stuff. And we have paper trails in the film that pretty much shows some of this technology and the fact that its stated origins are incorrect, and that we can prove that it came out of a whole other program, and it's not questionable. The documentation is there. And so there's a lot of reasons for keeping it a secret, but now it's like Lockheed might have some piece of technology, somebody else might have something else. Where it came from, nobody even knows anymore. So yeah, the whole truth of this is toast, as far as us ever getting everything laid out from point A to point B. But the reason for the secrecy there's a lot of reasons. I think all of them are pretty sad. But it's all context too.
Yeah.
Is, what if these things are hostile to us? Then there's a reason for not telling people.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed right after the first hearing on UFOs, Marco Rubio, bye, UFOs, right? And then all of a sudden, after that behind closed doors Intel committee briefing, none of those guys came out even talking about it anymore. Rubio went crickets on UFOs. And one of the things that I think might be at play here, it's a lot easier to get somebody to keep a secret because they agree a secret needs to be kept than it is to threaten them into keeping a secret. Mm-hmm. So in other words, you could say to these guys inside these Intel chambers, look, guys, we're going to tell you some stuff, but if you come out with any of it, if your staffers leak it, blah, 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 we're going to go after your family. You're going to lose your pension, all the kind of typical threats that you hear. But still, somebody sooner or later is going to do it. But if it's more like, look, the world can't know this, and here's why. And they're like, oh gosh, there's a reason Reagan was crying with his head in his hands, right around some of this UFO talk. And so what if there's a whole nefarious element to this that we don't know? And that's one of the biggest reasons for the secrecy.
Yeah. Also, I think that our species is at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes down to intelligent life.
Oh yeah.
Universe,
I mean,
right?
we're tadpoles in a pond.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
At the very best, we're genetic assets. And oops, sorry.
They got him, Louis. They got him.
And this was a Phil Schneider moment.
Yeah, no, hopefully not. I mean, the movie's out now.
Yeah. No, but it's, the complexity of the visitations, and especially like our army's designed to kill other humans. That's what our technology is designed to do. And like Louis and I always joke, we put all these satellites and weapons in space, but they're all pointing back at ourselves. Like we're holding guns to ourselves, right? Nothing pointing out. Well, there might be, who knows at this point.
Yeah.
But we see things like, even we interviewed a gentleman yesterday that has been, investigating NASA and all these events that they've seen and astronauts have seen. And you clearly see crafts or something of intelligence come down from outer space into the Earth's atmosphere. We know that once they're in, they're called fast walkers when they're up there. Then they enter our atmosphere. They're UAPs or UFOs. Mm-hmm. Then they go into the water, which now they're USOs. So we have no word that encompasses the actual craft itself, unless it's multi-medium craft or something like that.
They
right?
describe it in the new legislation.
All domain anomalies.
Yeah, there you go. But here's the thing. They deny that we're tracking this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you're telling me that we couldn't see a giant weather balloon from China lurking in our atmosphere
with the satellites we got? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we know that that NORAD routinely tracks UAP. And we know that they've been doing it for a long time. And there's probably a complete facility that just tracks UAPs.
Yeah.
So, it's just all lies. And normally I'm a lot more reserved on these interviews, but I got to tell you, I'm a little bit uptight about some of the stuff that's been going on, and I get more and more uptight about the extent that these people are willing to carry these lies. And when I first started to make Accidental Truth, I was very militant. I was angry at all these guys. I'm like, I'm going to get you for this. And then I started to kind of understand, well, these people are patriots, a lot of them. The guys like Lou Elizondo, okay? People can say what they want to say about him. Is he still working? Is he running an op right now? Maybe. I tend to think that that's a possibility, but he's doing his duty that he was sworn to do. And whether we agree with how that plays out or not, you have to respect him for that. These are people that honestly believe that they're duty bound to do whatever it is that they're told to do. And even though we're like, well, no, you've got the keys to one of the biggest questions ever facing humanity, and you're just going to sit there. Like I said in the beginning of the film, I'm sitting in this room with these people that know all this stuff, and all I can think about is getting them to tell me something they don't want me to know. That's what it's been like for me for like 10, 12, 13 years, trying to get answers out of people that don't want to share them. But are these people wrong? That changed for me. I used to think, yeah, absolutely, you're wrong to do this, to harbor these secrets. But I don't know. I'm not sure about that anymore. I think that, if you're somebody in this mid-level, it's kind of above your pay grade to make the decision who gets told what and when. And no matter what your personal preferences are, you have to abide by your duty. And, thank God these guys actually have enough of a sense of duty to do that. But it is frustrating as it can possibly be.
Absolutely.
No, you mentioned earlier that you just want to lay everything out like you're making a case. And if this was a case in a court of law, with the amount of witnesses and evidence and forensics and everything else, it would be a slam dunk, right? So it's not like it's a far stretch to think there might be something to it. And your title is very fitting because essentially you accomplished what you just said, that you had to get these people to tell you stuff they don't want to tell you. But the more they talk about their area of expertise and the more they acknowledge that certain things are possible, in essence, they are giving you the truth. That is the answer. You had them lay out the breadcrumbs unintentionally, or however you did it. Maybe you knew that was going to happen, but effectively they give you the answer. They give the audience the answers we are looking for. Maybe not in so many words, but as you mentioned, you need to watch it once, twice, until you start really picking up the subtleties. But these big name people, we've had it happen on our show too. Like we interviewed all the big guys, and it's not trickery, but essentially we lead them down a path and let's talk about it and go deeper, deeper, deeper. At the end of it, it's pretty clear what they're saying, like Gary Nolan's not going to say, but he'll say, I haven't seen, but I've been told. So like we let them have their little bit of that piece. We know what they're trying to do for us. And I think Elizondo's done that his whole career. Like, don't ask me. I can't tell you. Everybody's watching. What do you want from me? Like, I cannot reveal stuff I'm not supposed to.
Right.
But I'm going to give you the answer if you just shut up and listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah. Pay attention. Yep.
Yeah. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
the model
there
of our
was
show.
there was nothing vindictive or mean-spirited about the film. I don't call anybody a liar. I don't attack anybody. And I'm really, really proud of that, because what I wanted to do is at the end of this thing, I wanted to make sure that all these guys would still talk to me. I've accomplished most of that. There's a couple people that aren't going to return my calls, but at the end of the day, that's okay. But I made an honest film, and I really worked hard to make sure that nobody was being attacked. And, I don't call anybody a liar in Accidental Truth. I just let the audience make up their own mind. Yeah. And what you said about watching it, it is a film that consists of layers. The first time you watch it, you see something, but the second time you watch it, you start to notice some of the subtleties. And by the time you watch it the third time, you start to realize how much deception is actually being perpetrated right in front of your eyes in the film. When at first you're like, oh, yeah, that guy's pretty cool. Oh, but by the time you watch it the third or fourth time, it's like, oh, that guy's lying through his teeth, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely unique. I hope it finds its audience. I guess it's doing okay. I don't have numbers, but there's been a lot of things trying to keep this film from getting into the mainstream, and it really needs to be out there, because this is the one place that you can watch a film and understand from a factual standpoint what's going on. I think if you laid this film out, like I said, in front of a jury, and there's stuff that we touch on, but there's paperwork and documentation to back up everything we say. Like when we talk about night and all coming out of Battelle Memorial Institute, we have the paper trail for that. We know the scientists that did the studying. We know all the stuff about titanium alloys. It was discovered at Battelle that wasn't previously discovered. And then we know that the story about nitinol, the shape-shifting memory alloy coming out of a naval weapons research laboratory a few years later, that's not true. It was ported to them so that they could say, oh, look what we got. But that's not where it came from. And so all of that stuff that just we talk about in the movie, there is actual complete paper trail documentation. So if you were cross-examined on any of it, we can put it out, and that'll be in the Accidental Truth Insider website, where people can see the deeper interviews and the actual paper trails for the evidence. And probably we're doing a book, so hopefully that gets picked up, and it'll have all that.
Yeah.
Cool. Where can people find your movie while we have you? And before we close, where can they find the movie? And we hope that our audience will watch it.
Absolutely.
Give it a review.
Yeah.
Let's help them out. There are sabotage people out there. So you guys help our channel too. You give us thumbs up and subscribe. Let's help Ron out. Give it an honest review.
Absolutely.
We don't tell anybody to give
that's
anything
all I have to
perfect
say about that.
Yeah, just give it an honest review. We
check
like
it out, watch it. You can rent it now for as little as $4 if you only watch one UFO film this month. Watch it, because it really is, it delivers, and it's unlike anything else that's been put out there. You can find it. It's on all the platforms, Amazon and Hulu and Vudu and Apple TV and Google Play and all those places. And you can find more about the website or more about the film at accidentaltruths.com. So it's accidentaltruths.com. And, I don't know if we have a minute, but if you guys have a computer, this is something that is absolutely hilarious. If you search right now, Accidental Truth t-shirt, you will find that our design of our poster has been bootlegged by about 1,000 different people, and they're selling my t-shirts all over the place.
What?
Everywhere. Yeah, there's more returns on Accidental Truth t-shirts on Google than come back for Accidental Truth movie. It's ridiculous. But
and you're not getting a dime from that.
No, they stole my poster. But the thing is we have our own t-shirt factory that is actually in the studio where we made the movie, and you can go there. If you go to the website, you could buy the shirts, and I actually make these shirts myself by hand. And we've got the t-shirts, the mouse pads, all the goodies, but it's the only place you can get the real deal. And the Accidental Truth t-shirts that you buy off our website are actually made by me. Just like I made the movie, I'm making the merchandise myself, mostly because I wanted to get away from being in front of the computer all the time. So at least when you're making t-shirts, you have to move your body. So that's a good thing.
And it's handmade by the director and filmmaker, right? So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And
so,
people can find you on MUFON Television as well, correct?
Yes. In fact, accidentaltruths.com forwards to a free section of MUFON TV where you have all that stuff. There's bonus features to watch. There's all kinds of information about the movie. We've won 11 awards already in film festival competitions and film festivals and competitions. We won best documentary at the Parapod. We've won like the Indie Fest. We won best narrator. So we've won a bunch of bests and a bunch of golds. Yeah, so we're up to 11, and we entered a lot of competitions, but you still have to win them, and so that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, second is just the first loser, right? We all know that.
Yeah.
Well, second isn't too bad. But we've won mostly we've won the second tier, but we've won a few bests also.
Good for you.
Ron, before we let you go, we're strong supporters of MUFON. Always have been, and I know a lot of other podcasts knock them down, but we support them because we know the people that are the actual investigators have hearts of gold. They do this for free. They do it for free. Everything's on their dime, and I'm trying to let the listeners and viewers of this podcast that are interested in getting off the couch, stop being a couch investigator, and actually contribute to the study and maybe join MUFON. Could you explain really quickly to the listeners how they can join MUFON and help the organization?
Well, that's you touch on one thing that I want everybody to know, and that is that MUFON is a community of people that care about the topic and find fellowship and like minds within the organization. So you don't have to have a burning need to suddenly become a UFO investigator to join MUFON. There's a lot of reasons to join just to be a part of the club. And if you do want to become a UFO investigator, there's no better way to do it than to become part of MUFON. And you can just go to MUFON.com and sign up. But there's so many things that MUFON offers, because a lot of people that they want to be in a club, they want to have their own TV channel they can look at, they want to have their local meetings they can go to, and their Zoom meetings and places where experiencers can talk to other experiencers. But maybe they don't want to be like, I don't want to take this UFO investigation and turn it into my life. MUFON has something for everybody. If you care about the UFO topic, you should be a member of MUFON no matter what. It's only like $100 a year for the enhanced membership, and that comes with the live stream of the symposium and the TV channel and everything. It's well worth it. And then if you really do want to become a UFO investigator, we have the best processes and the best training in the world. So you can take your participation as far as you want to take it.
Yeah. Plus, becoming an investigator, it's hard
cool.
to find. Well, it's hard to find cases when you first start off on your own, and MUFON assigns you cases that are local, and it gets you going, right? Which is fantastic. And I think we need more investigators. We need more people to participate in this phenomenon. It is a global issue. It requires a massive amount of people.
We're all over the
data.
world. We have members in a lot of foreign countries, and what we're finding out, and MUFON is at the forefront of this too, is ET might be part of the explanation, but it's not the whole explanation. It can't be. We're seeing too many things that aren't simply explained by ET. And we talk about that in Accidental Truth as well. But, we're about to discover something about the whole nature of our reality that is going to totally transcend us as a civilization if we don't destroy ourselves first. That's really what we're on. And so organizations like MUFON, guys doing the work that you're doing, filmmakers that are putting out credible work, we're all helping to shape a better future for humanity. And that's really what it's all about. And we're in desperate times right now. We all need to redouble our efforts and do the best we can to help.
Absolutely. Well, Ron James, it was a pleasure with us meeting with you today and talking about your film. Accidental Truth is the film. You guys should check it out, give it a good rating, and give us your feedback on today's episode. What did you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Hop over to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe if you haven't already. And again, another thanks, Ron. You're welcome back here anytime. Next project you have, hop on here first. We'll give you our audience.
Hey, I'll reach out to you guys. And, like I said, check out Accidental Truth. Let me know what you think. You can reach me personally at media@mufon.com. I love hearing from people after they've seen the film, whether they like it or not. Most people like it, so that's kind of cool. And thanks for having me on, you guys. I cut loose a little bit today. I'm not wearing my sport coat and my tie. And I just kind of wanted to share some of the frustration and joys that are coming with putting this film out. So thank you for having me.
We appreciate how candid you are. That's sort of what we pride ourselves on. We get people to tell us stuff that they're not just regurgitating on 15 or 20 shows, right? So thanks for the unique episode. We appreciate it and look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks for having me on.